Welcome, everyone. Today, we'll be exploring the core principles of PMP project management, the 7th edition of the PMP guide. Highlights: 12 key principles and 8 performance areas. Let's dive into these 12 principles. They are: the first principle states, be diligent and a caretaker who values and nurtures others. In essence, you must adopt a steward's mindset. But what exactly is a steward? Picture this. In the 18th and 19th centuries, British aristocratic households employed stewards with considerable power to manage the entire state, overseeing all aspects of daily life. We'll dive deeper into this later. First, embody stewardship. Be a diligent, respectful, caring manager. Second, create a collaborative team. As a manager, you must effectively ensure everyone works well together. Lead the team to collaborate and achieve goals. Third, engage stakeholders effectively. In other words, as we've learned earlier, your role is to guide the stakeholders to actively engage in the project, encouraging them to increase their support, while reducing any resistance they might have. That's what we mean by effective stakeholder engagement. The fourth principle, focus on value. We'll cover Agile project management later. Agile emphasizes a crucial concept known as being value-driven. This means that in our work, not everything we do has equal value. In fact, typically, there's this thing called the 80-20 rule. It suggests that 20% of your efforts, these key efforts, in terms of overall impact, can actually deliver 80% or more of the value to your customers. So, by focusing on what really matters, we prioritize the tasks that bring the most value to our customers. Just to emphasize again, and I can't stress this enough, we need to set clear priorities in everything we do. What's another crucial aspect to consider? When it comes to the project as a whole, it must bring value to the table. It has to be worthwhile, delivering benefits such as intangible assets or tangible returns. The project must create value and yield positive outcomes. The fifth principle, identify, assess, and respond to system interactions. These system interactions, for those of you who studied PMP before, this might be new territory. But once you've gone through this content, you'll get the idea. It's basically about integrated management. Think of our whole project as one big system. When we're working on something like this, you need to effectively engage with the system. You've got to identify stakeholders and set up different plans. Ensure implementation at key milestones. Take action and execute the plan. The sixth point, demonstrate leadership. When it comes to leadership, we discussed two phrases in earlier lessons: charge on my behalf and follow my lead. Whether you're directing from behind or leading from the front, what matters is your ability to effectively motivate and inspire your team, ensuring everyone performs the task effectively. All of this showcases true leadership. The sixth principle, as a project manager, you must demonstrate this leadership quality. You need to spark enthusiasm in your team, inspiring action from everyone. This embodies the sixth principle. The seventh principle, adapting strategies to the project environment. Speaking of adaptation, we've actually touched on a related concept before. It's about making choices, prioritizing. In other words, we have a ton of tools and methods at our disposal, not to mention countless artifacts and files. But for any given project, you don't need to use everything at your disposal. You can pick and choose based on your needs. Moreover, there are certain elements that we use specifically in project management. Elements not covered in the main framework. You're free to incorporate additional elements. You have the flexibility to remove components or introduce new ones. Adapt based on your project's specific needs. Tailoring the process. The goal of this tailoring is to optimize the project's execution. This brings us to point number 7. Implement effective process tailoring. Moving on to point 8. Embed quality in processes and deliverables. Throughout project management, quality is, in fact, crucial. Let me explain. If our deliverables are subpar, they'll likely be rejected, and clients won't be able to use them effectively. So, throughout the project, we must consider quality from the start, implement quality assurance throughout, and perform quality control at the end. Quality is the lifeblood of any project. If there's no quality assurance, the entire project becomes pointless. We'll cover Agile project management later, where it's constantly stressed that we must deliver a working software. But what makes it working? First off, the quality's got to be spot on. Quality must be impeccable. Then, the client must accept it. So even if quality isn't mentioned, it's still the essential prerequisite. Let's move on to the 8th principle. Embed quality in processes and deliverables. The 9th principle. Navigate complexity. We're living in what's known as the VUCA era. VUCA stands for 4 distinct concepts. It describes our current age as one of volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. In project management, not all projects are alike. You can anticipate 5 steps ahead. You know with absolute certainty. Many aspects are riddled with uncertainties. Particularly in today's fast-paced world, with constantly shifting demands, project managers must possess key skills to navigate complexity effectively. Now, about mastering complexity. It's a concept that's not easily understood. But here's a key point to ponder. What type of individual can truly handle such complex situations? In this ever-evolving environment, it takes a true expert. When things are straightforward, you can handle it easily. In more complex situations, you can manage to some degree. As you gain more experience, you'll be able to face significant variability, uncertainty, ambiguity, and complexity. You'll develop techniques and strategies to master these challenges. Let's move on to the 9th principle. It's about navigating complexity. The 10th principle focuses on optimizing risk responses. This is actually related to what we discussed earlier. Risk management. Throughout project execution, risks are virtually everywhere. By definition, a risk is an uncertain event or condition that, if it occurs, impacts the entire project. These impacts can be positive. Sometimes we call it an opportunity, but more often than not, we label it as a negative impact, or even a threat. When it comes to risks, if there's a chance they'll happen, we can't just sit back and wait. We absolutely need to prepare response strategies. Now, about optimizing risk responses. It's all about effectively managing our overall risk strategy. Identify potential risks, assess risks qualitatively and quantitatively, plan risk mitigation strategies, and implement them effectively. Now, point number 11. Embrace adaptability and resilience. Let's break this down. First, adaptability. We often describe someone as highly adaptable when confronted with a new and unfamiliar situation. One can still effectively move things forward. That's what we mean by strong adaptability. But what about resilience? Let's use an analogy to explain resilience. Imagine a glass ball. If you drop it, it'll likely shatter. Now, consider an iron ball. Drop that. It doesn't just stay intact. It can even leave a crater on impact. Now, take a ping pong ball for example. As it falls, it won't leave a mark on the ground. And it certainly won't break. Instead, it'll bounce right back up. This is what we mean by resilience. When we're working on a project, we might hit rock bottom at times. But the key is, you can bounce back. Despite failures, challenges, and setbacks, you can bounce back to your normal self. This is what we call resilience. Item 11 focuses on embracing adaptability and resilience. It's about facing the unknown hidden. And when mistakes happen, don't be afraid or fearful. We can always bounce back to where we were. Item 12. Adapting to the expected future. By driving change. What's the message behind this item? In theory, as a project manager, you shouldn't be overly concerned about this. However, when managing a project, it's something you need to consider. So, why do we need change in the first place? It's usually because our current methods are no longer working, or they're causing difficulties and challenges when implemented. In these situations, change becomes necessary for us as project managers, particularly when we're tasked with navigating complexity. We must embrace adaptability and cultivate resilience. In times of overwhelming uncertainty, we often need to adopt new approaches. Traditional methods may no longer suffice. When change is necessary, the first step is to adopt the right mindset. You need to acknowledge that the old playbook no longer works. To shape the future we envision, we need to make some necessary adjustments. However, when we discuss transformation, it shouldn't be spearheaded by project managers. Instead, it should stem from the top, with upper management, driving it downward through the organization. Nevertheless, you must cultivate this mindset. We often speak of a pivotal shift in thinking. You need to embrace this concept. Recognize that transformation can be a natural process. Once you accept this as normal, you'll likely become more aware of taking necessary actions. Even when things don't go as planned, you'll be less intimidated. This summarizes the entire project management's 12 principles. Next, we'll explore each principle in detail to share insights with you.